Welcome to Cocktails in the War Room, everybody. What's going on? Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, and it's Tuesday night, and that means we get together as we have done 104 times since March 14th, and we get together and become each other's therapist and best friend and bartender and shoulder to cry on and whatever else it takes to get through the craziest year on planet Earth 2020. Thank you for joining us. As you may have heard already, but maybe you haven't. Normally, this show is called Cocktails in the War Room because we are, in fact, here in my war room at home. However, tonight we have a special guest. And as it is every time we have a special guest celebrating their sobriety, tonight is a Temple Tuesday that I have called. And I've got my Shirley Temple with extra cherries in my bullet mug. So welcome to Temple Tuesday and welcome to Mocktails in the War Room. And happy birthday, 245th birthday to all of the devil dogs out there. Happy birthday to the Marine Corps. And because tomorrow is Veterans Day, there are very few bands that are as associated to the military and to our troops and veterans as the band and the lead singer of the band that we have as our guest tonight in the War Room. So without further ado, I am so excited to introduce you to Brad Arnold from Three Doors Down. Hi, Brad.
Hey, how are y'all?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing wonderful.
How are you holding up?
I'm good. I just got off a horse, got done taking care of horses and chilling at home and glad to be here.
You were on episode 18 of the Mistress Carrie Podcast, and when we did the interview, you were talking about the ponies that you have on your ranch or on your farm. Are those the ponies that you were hanging out with today?
Yeah, they turned into giants. They're 2 years old. They're 2.5, but they are big horses. I mean, they're quarter horses and they're barrel horses. But the guy that was breaking them, we took them over to Kix Brooks from Brooks and Dunn has a farm over about 45 miles from here, and the fellow that we got to break them for us works at his farm. And so we took them over there, and he broke them for us, and they've been there for like 2 months. And we brought them back, and neither one of us have been on them. Jen rode them for a minute over there the other day, but we got on them together a while ago. So we weren't sure what was going to happen, and it couldn't have gone better. And they were perfect little angels. It was so much fun.
You're talking about Jen, who's obviously your wife that anybody doesn't know, and she's quite an accomplished rider. Is she a better rider than you?
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah. She's one. I barely ride. She's won world championships and stuff on AQHA barrel racing and stuff, and she's a great rider. So I couldn't have a better teacher.
So, like I said in the intro, today is the 245th birthday of the United States Marine Corps. So I got my 1-6 shirt on tonight for all the Marines. So happy birthday, you guys.
Happy birthday.
Normally tonight is a crazy night to be out anywhere in any major city around a Marine Corps ball because they can get a little unruly on their birthday.
Heck yeah.
Have you ever been to a birthday ball for any branch of the military, Marine Corps, Army birthday?
I have not.
Okay, so they have the biggest cakes that you've like. I don't know where they find these bakeries, but the military, they get these giant cakes, and it's the most badass thing because they cut them with swords. Like, who doesn't want to cut a giant cake with a sword? It's amazing.
I want to see that be done.
It's pretty awesome. It is pretty awesome. For the Marine Corps birthday, they always have the oldest Marine in the room take a bite out of the cake first and then pass the piece of cake to the youngest Marine in the room. And I went to a Marine Corps birthday ball last year, and the youngest Marine in the room was born in 2000. And I was like, wow. Oh my God, I feel so old. Yeah.
That's when we started touring.
Yeah.
Wow. That is crazy.
So
you know what? That makes me feel old.
Yeah, right? So you're having a big anniversary this week for the band. So you got to talk about that.
Yeah. Their second record came out 18 years ago, and which is it's strange to even think about. And that's how long that record kind of, and When I'm Gone kind of sparked our relationship with the military for the most part, which we're from military families. Chris was in the Navy. My dad was in the Air Force. But like as a band in our relationship, uh, for what we starting to play shows and just doing different things with them, started with that record. And it started when we went over and we played on the deck of the USS George Washington, and then we went over to Bahrain. We done some shows around Naples and some other places, and played a show on. I mean, I could have thrown a rock off the stage and landed in the Persian Gulf out in amongst a bunch of tents. It was cool, and but it started with that tour, and yeah, it's been 18 years ago. That's so crazy.
I know. And that When I'm Gone video, I mean, Three Doors Down had already broken records at rock radio because of Kryptonite. And so to follow up a massive song like that with something like When I'm Gone, and you guys, I mean, obviously 9/11 happened in 2001, and a year later, when the wars were, when things were really starting to move with the military and we really kind of understood what was going on, how did you guys end up on the deck of the George Washington? Like, was it you guys that went to the military? Did they invite you? How did that happen?
They invited us. MWR invited us, and we that the ship at that moment was in port. It was, I mean, well off the coast, but technically in port. It was off the coast of Porto, Portugal, or it wasn't Porto, Portugal. I think it was off the coast of Portugal. I forgot the city. Maybe Lisbon, Portugal. But it was off the coast, and so we took the captain's boat out there. 2 days later, we were supposed to go and play on the deck of the Lincoln, but we were going to fly onto the deck of it, and we were all, I mean, we were all like ready to do it. We were all scared as hell about
Because
doing
that
it.
would have been on one of those planes where they got to take the cable
Yeah.
and slow you down, right?
Yeah. And for all of us to have been on there, it would have been a good sized plane, you know?
Right.
And that would have been, I mean, I'd have did it. I would have done it, but it would have been, that would have been scared. Um, but so they got deployed like literally the day before we were supposed to go. There was a day in between the two shows, and it got deployed that day, and which we knew it was a possibility. But that was awesome. It was, and you know, and what was cool about that show also is, like I said, they were in port, and but they were off the. You had to take a boat back and forth because it was still a couple miles out there to the boat, and these kids hadn't, and the average age on the boat was when they left port was like 19 years old, and they said by the time they came back, the average age was 20. So many of them had birthdays,
Oh my
and
God.
I know. And this boat, it had
It's
80
a Brad.
something decks on.
It's a ship.
Yeah, exactly. It's a town.
Yeah,
It's
right.
a town. It's if you when you're coming out there, when you're going out there, you just watch it. I mean, it was far enough away that you could see it out there, but it was small. And as you get up to it, you just watch it turn into a city. There was 50% more people on the ship than there are from my hometown, and which was amazing. And they haven't been in port at the time in 3 months. And like 60% of the sailors on the boat stayed on the boat. And if they stayed on the boat, they didn't get to go ashore because they were going to be in port for like 3 days. If they stayed to watch the concert, and they stayed to watch the concert.
Well, one of the
And
most striking visuals for me in the When I'm Gone video is when they lit the numbers of the ship.
yeah,
And that was the backdrop. And then they showed the ship in the ocean and showed how big it was and how small those numbers looked in comparison. And then when you show Three Doors Down in front of the numbers looked huge.
I know, it was amazing. And I remember turning around that night on stage and looking at those numbers and being like, "Holy crap!" Couldn't believe I was standing on that. I couldn't believe I was standing on the deck of an aircraft carrier, much less like playing a show on the deck of an aircraft carrier.
Before we start talking about our collective war rooms, that video, that famous video that was really just such an important statement in support of the military back in 2002, that wasn't even the original idea for the video. And you touched on this in the podcast episode. But do you mind, for everybody that's in the war room with us tonight, you guys had originally filmed a video for When I'm Gone that had nothing to do with the military. And can you tell us the story?
We did. We shot the video and actually shot it during a tropical storm down in South Mississippi in our hometown. We shot it, and it was kind of like an old New Orleans style like funeral that all these people kind of made this procession. You can look it up. It's on YouTube, I believe. You just have to maybe type in original or swamp, or I forgot what it is, but anyway, it's on there. But it's worth watching. But it's this whole like New Orleans like funeral procession, like approaching us in the woods, and they start like digging around us, and a couple of the dudes digging are actually our dads.
No way,
And so
really?
they're yeah, and it was we knew almost everybody in the video, and so um so they all start digging around us, and by the time they get us, by the end of it, it's nighttime, and we're in the mud, and we're like in our graves, and they're burying us, and I had to be buried up to my neck, and I was legit standing in a grave, buried up to my neck, and then and they eventually buried up over my head, and they would only leave me buried for a second, but you buried up over your head,
Yeah.
and it was sketchy. It was a cool video though. But so we shot the video, and then we went on that tour, and we just took a cameraman. We weren't planning on making a video out of that. We just took a cameraman with us just to document it because we wanted it on. We wanted it,
Yeah. Why wouldn't you
And
want that footage playing on the deck of an aircraft carrier? Of course.
exactly. Somebody better be recording, because everybody didn't. I mean, that was 2002. Everybody wasn't running around with their iPhone.
Right. A
And
lot of people forget that, by the way, that there was a time where everyone didn't have a phone in their pocket that had a camera,
exactly.
an HD camera with amazing resolution.
Yeah, for real. And yeah, somebody you might have like one that was as big as a laptop now, or something crazy. Um, but so we came back from that tour, and we were on tour a couple of weeks later, and we went through New York, and we were talking about the video with a record company, and they were like, yeah, that's cool video and all, but Monty Littman, the head of Universal, he said, let me show you what we did with that footage from your military tour. And he showed us that video, and we were like, that's the video. It was
Yeah.
so much, and it was cool, and it showed we were really proud of it, and we were proud to show our support, and we were proud to have been on that tour and got to go see and do the things that we did. But it was a great experience, and the things that it led to that we got to do with the military, we've got to do some amazing things. I'll show you some stuff that I've got.
Yeah, we talked in the podcast episode, and you were in your office, and you were talking about some of the things, and I was like, oh, well, you should see my war room. And that's when we started talking to the podcast, and I was like, you got to come in the war room because I want to see some of the stuff you got, and I want to show you some of the stuff that I got.
I wish that I was doing this in my office back there, but it's kind of, I don't have any I don't have wonderful Wi-Fi, and so it don't really reach back there, and it would be
Well,
awkward
don't
if
move
you
because we
don't.
can see you perfect and you sound great. So don't move.
Awesome.
So When I'm Gone became this military anthem by accident, right? Because of the video. Then you guys got asked by the National Guard to write a song for them in Citizen Soldier. And when
Yeah.
people found out you were going to be in the war room, they talked about how When I'm Gone helped them get through their husband and wives' deployments. And then obviously Citizen Soldier all of a sudden becomes this anthem for our troops themselves. So how did Citizen Soldier happen?
Well, that's what they wanted, and actually the National Guard, we wrote that for the National Guard, but we knew that it would apply to every branch of the military, and they knew that it would, and it was actually for a campaign they were doing. They wanted a video to play in movie theaters before the movies, during like the trailers and stuff. But they wanted it to not like be a little. They didn't want like a National Guard commercial. They wanted to show the history of the National Guard, and and we were in the middle of writing the Three Doors Down record, and I think like I don't know what his rank was, but I know that he was high up. Called me one day, and they just told me like basically what they wanted in the song, kind of like what they wanted to hit on a little bit. It's like, well, they call us the Citizen Soldiers, and I was like, oh, dude, that's perfect. He's like,
Song writes itself.
yeah. And he's like, if you could just mention that word in the song somewhere, I was like, oh no, that's the name of the song. And I said it on the phone. I was like, no, the song is called Citizen Soldier. And he's like, okay, cool. And he said, we just want to talk about, because the National Guard, that's who takes care of us here at home a lot, and floods and fires. And I mean, God knows
Those are the fighter jets that got scrambled on 9/11. I mean, they're
absolutely,
the heroes of Hurricane Katrina. The National Guard, I mean, just here in Boston, if it's not a crazy blizzard, it was protecting downtown after the marathon bombing. We depend on the National Guard. Those were the guys I was embedded with overseas in Iraq and Afghanistan, were guys from the Mass Guard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, they do a lot of stuff. And so we just talked about that on that call. And he said, we want to do the video and show those different things. He said, so just kind of maybe write the song accordingly. And I literally called him back in like 15 minutes because we already had a song that kind of fit that. We already had the music to Citizen Soldier. We already had that music. And I was like, oh man, I called my manager back and I was like, 30 minutes later, I was like, we got it. And we called him. He's like, are you serious? You think you have it? I was like, I'll record the vocals and we'll send it to him. And I recorded the vocals. They was like, dude. and so shooting that video was awesome also. Because Antoine Fuqua, who did like Training Day and Shooter and all that stuff, he's done some of the best action movies ever made. And an awesome dude. He's cool. He's just a cool guy. And but he directed the video for that song, and it had about 100 times the normal Three Doors Down budget for a video, but it turned out really good.
When we touched on it in the podcast, but I want to give you, because Veterans Day is tomorrow and today the Marines are celebrating their birthday. When you go and play these shows, whether it be for military bases here at home, or you go on the deck of an aircraft carrier, or you go on base overseas to a place like Bahrain, talk about what it's like as a child of a service member, but also as a civilian musician, and getting to tour the facilities, and most importantly, getting to meet our troops themselves and what that was like, because I've seen those shows and there's no more passionate or rabid fan than a military fan that is appreciating an artist coming all that way.
I've never felt more appreciated in my life. I mean, everywhere you go, every time, every one of them you meet, they just tell you, thank you for being here. I'm like, man, thank you. And it's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure to go and meet every one of the soldiers and airmen and sailors, and they're great. Every base you go to is it's different, and like I said on the podcast, you get to play with some cool toys too. We've got to shoot tanks, and we got to fly on an F-16, and I mean go through touring aircraft carriers and submarines and stuff like that. And I mean it's when I hear that we're going to do something, anytime I hear that we're going to do it, I'm like, yeah, heck yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, the military knows how to spend money, and they have the best toys ever.
Ever. Literally ever.
Yeah, exactly. So you and I had joked about some of the stuff that we've both received. And so I thought tonight would be really fun for you to kind of take us through some of the things that you've gotten from our troops and from your trips visiting them. And then I can show you a couple of the things that I have in my war room as well. So what do you got, Brad Arnold from Three Doors Down?
I've talked about some of these things already, but I have so much stuff. The last time I counted, I probably have I have at least 180 challenge coins.
Oh, you got more than me. You do?
Yeah, we do. I'll send you one.
Oh, I would love that.
I'll bring you one.
I would love that.
But I feel it's only fair to have, because so many guys were giving us coins and stuff. I was like, well, I give them to police officers and stuff. I keep them in my car and stuff, not to get out of tickets, like if I see them in the parking lot. And, honestly, last night I was standing at Tractor Supply I live in outside of Nashville, Tennessee. And I was talking to a dude at Tractor Supply, and he said he was in the Army, and I reached in my wife's car. Cause I like, here, man, I give them a challenge going to virus, and they always appreciate it, man. It's a simple way to say, man, I appreciate you.
Your wife's like, I can't take you anywhere, even Tractor Supply.
I had to get horse feed. But So starting with and this is, I mean, simple, but it's really, and it brings back. This is just stuff out of my case back there that I could kind of grab and bring in here. But this is, I mean, just a hat from the George Washington when we were out there, and I mean, they give you all kind of gifts, but it was just the mark being there, and but that was the first. That was where it started. Was on that boat,
Yeah.
and
Have you
but
worn that
two.
and had somebody stop you and been
No,
like,
I
"Oh, I
haven't.
know somebody that was on that ship," or
Uh, you know, I've met several people over the years that were there on that. They'd be at the
really?
show, and he's like, "Man, I see you. I was on the deck that night. You played on George Washington." I'm like, "No, wait, man, it was a great experience." Um, and somebody handed me this up on stage one night, and it's just a hat, and it's a wore out hat, to look at it
What does
and
it say on it?
symbol.
Cool. I
Can't
mean,
remember.
that thing has seen
Um,
some wear.
Well, but he handed it to me up on stage. He said, "This hat, Afghanistan 2009, Iraq 2011, all yours."
Wow. Oh, that's cool. And you saved it. See,
Oh,
people
heck yeah.
people that give artists things from the crowd, they never know what you guys do with them. And the fact that um that you
I have
save this
so
stuff,
much. I have so much.
I love that you kept that.
So, and this is from, I think this is a spent shell, but it's a 25, let's see, 25 millimeter shell. And I think that's from that's from one of the guns. I think that's the small gun on a Bradley fighting vehicle. And
The people in the
yeah,
comments will tell us if that's not right.
exactly. And I think it's off the Bradley fighting vehicle because I got its big brother back there, and I think it's off the small gun of a M1 Abrams tank. And I got to shoot the M1 Abrams, but the Bradley is actually, it was kind of more fun to shoot because the Abrams, you just get in. It was fun to watch somebody shoot the tank from outside because it's already armed and you can kind of aim it a little bit and stuff, but you just arm it and pull the trigger and you shoot way down range. But in the Bradley, you could move that gun around and like it was awesome.
And we talked about it, we touched on it in the podcast that you love to go shooting. And so
Absolutely.
you're not a novice when it comes to marksmanship. So for somebody that can really appreciate the fundamentals of the power of a weapon that big, it's you.
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. The guys I went skeet shooting with the other day might not call me a good shot. I'm terrible, but I'm better with pistols. So this is from when we went with the Thunderbirds, and it's pretty simple, but it says right there that I pulled 9 G's. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Over there.
you got the big 9. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that was harsh.
Did you when you flew with the Angels, how many planes? Because I flew with the Mass Air National Guard here, but I was in just one plane. We weren't flying in formation. Were you in a formation? And how close were those other jets really?
It was just me and one other jet. It was Matt and our original guitar player, the one that passed away. He and I went up together, and he was in a different jet, and the pilot said, "Look over to your left," and I looked over and I was like, "Whoa!" I mean, he was right. I mean, he was right there. Like whoa. We were sitting there flipping each other off and stuff, and but they overlapped their wings, and then it was cool to because they all go around each other and stuff, and
the fact that you're going as fast as you are, and they are so intricate with their movements. The skill of these pilots, I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And we went from Las Vegas to California in 8 minutes.
What is that, a 4.5 hour drive?
So he said if he really had to, in one of the single seaters, he could go to the coast of California in 8 minutes. I was like, man. He said he'd have to hurry up and do whatever he was going to do, because he'd almost be out of fuel by the time he got there.
Yeah.
But he could get there.
Yep.
And I left it back in my thing, and you probably couldn't see it real good anyway, but I say it in reference to those challenge coins, and I appreciate every one of those that I've ever been given. But I have one, and it's pretty simple back there, and it took me a minute to even realize what it was when the man gave it to me. It was an older man, gave it to me at a show one day, and it was its first recon battalion, and it was from Vietnam, and it's like well worn, like
He had it in his
that
pocket a long
pin.
time.
Yeah, well, this pin, it was on his uniform going through that jungle somewhere. I was
Oh.
like, man, it was really heavy. But the something that I've always just thought was amazing that somebody would give me, and I honestly I tried not to take it, but he was like, you have to take it, and it's Philly gave me his Purple Heart, and
What do you
I
say?
just,
I mean,
there's nothing I could say, and not a thing I could say, but thank you.
yeah. I mean, something like that when you're, like you and I are very similar in that way that there's military in our family. We ended up not taking that path for various reasons, but both of us obviously showing great support for the military. And as a civilian, to be gifted something like that with so much meaning and so much honor attached to it, sometimes it's overwhelming. And
Absolutely.
the brotherhood that and the sisterhood that our military members have is something that, people like you and I, they're so appreciative of what we do, but the appreciation for, I'm standing in Kabul in 2011 as a purple haired female American journalist, and the only reason I was still breathing was because I was surrounded by a bunch of badass motherfuckers. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so to be welcomed into that kind of brotherhood in the way that you and I have both been over the years, overwhelming is kind of one of the only words that describe it. It's very humbling.
It really, really is. I've talked to so many guys that said, "Man, we used to listen to y'all song every day before we went out on patrol." Something, and I mean, it means so much to me to know that they were listening to us, and like we weren't there, but like our songs were there, and it kind of a part of you was there, and it. I don't know. Nothing means any more to me than hearing them guys tell me that. It blows me away every time I hear it.
And for the post 9/11 veterans, so many of them enlisted or commissioned when they knew we were at war.
Absolutely.
And so,
Absolutely.
when 9/11 happened, obviously, the next day, recruitment was just insane with people that either wanted to get back in the military that had already served and gotten out, or people that were like, I need to go and do something. And so, when you talk about the 19 and 20-year-olds that you met on the George Washington, I bet a lot of those sailors enlisted after 9/11, and they were acutely
Absolutely.
aware that they weren't just going to be getting a GI Bill and using it to go to college, that they were going to be used for their intended purpose.
That's right. That's right.
Go ahead.
God bless them for it.
Yeah, it's when you see the recognition of the selflessness that it takes, to leave your life behind and whatever it was at that moment and feel like you were called to do something that's greater than yourself, to be part of something greater than yourself. It's awe-inspiring.
Absolutely. It really is.
I want to show you a few of the things that I have in my war room, and some of them are, big framed things and whatever. So I could only bring, like you, some of the smaller things that I could carry. So we've talked about it here in the war room in the past. You'd bring up the challenge coins. I grabbed these 3 because I've been honored enough to meet 3 Medal of Honor recipients that have given me their coins. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about an award like the Purple Heart, you talk about the Medal of Honor. It's like everybody knows what that blue ribbon means. And so to meet people, both young and old, from different wars and conflicts in our history, and to be able to shake the hand of someone that has has earned our highest honor as a member of the military. It's, like you said with these coins, they mean a lot.
They really, really do.
Um,
Those are awesome.
I don't know if the Blue Angels gave you one of these, but I got mine. I got my wings when I flew in the fighter jet.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which I thought would be really cool because they actually, like, someone in the military had to fill out a form to get somebody to make me wings that actually said Mistress Carrie. And I just want to be the fly on the wall for whoever filled that form out. But I love this. So I want to say,
yeah, that's awesome.
What's up to the 104th Fighter Wing, the Barnstormers, because they gave me that. I mentioned my trips overseas. When I announced my trip to Iraq in 2006, we actually used When I'm Gone as the music that set up the big announcement. We had teased for like a month that I had a big announcement that day. And when we made the announcement, we used your music to announce it. And then when I went back overseas in 2011 to Afghanistan, the commander gave me, and I've showed this before, this this old compass that it says, let me see. It's hard to read it, but it says pocket compass. It says, is it 1885?
Uh-huh.
And then it came in a box that has the Yankee Division logo, which is now the Yankee Brigade. And this is the 181st and 182nd Infantry of the Mass Army National Guard, which is who I was with overseas. They're one of the 4 original units from the U.S. military. They have Lexington and Concord and Boston battle streamers from.
Whoa.
Yeah. So the history.
That was like the first.
We invented America,
military.
Brad. You're welcome.
You did.
You know how we are up here in Boston. When I was in Afghanistan, I was gifted something. You know how those guys, they get a lot of downtime, so they get a little creative. So they had a blown up Humvee. And so one of the guys went into the metal shop and he made me a sword out of some of the armor that came out of one of the Humvees.
Ooh. And I'm sure that sword right there weighs about 40 pounds.
Yeah. If I did this for a while, like, you'd see my giant pythons popping out. But getting this home from Afghanistan.
Oh, God.
No small feat. Let me tell you. I want to say what's up to everybody at the post office. Thank you guys for letting me get this home. And
those doors, the armor, that's some heavy steel on those things.
Right?
Those doors, I mean, when you see one of those Humvees, it's like, yeah, that's pretty tough. When you ride in one, you can feel how heavy they are. And when you grab that door, you know that you grabbed something. That's something.
Getting in and out of those vehicles, most of the time I sat behind the driver, right? So I had to use my left arm and smash to get the door open. And I ended up with this, and I called it my civilian bruise, that I had this embarrassing bruise on my arm because I was always checking the door. And it was like, oh yeah, you can tell I'm a soft civilian because I got a bruise just opening the door.
Nothing in those vehicles is soft, though.
No.
I mean, it's like everything. Y'all need some padding in these things.
Yeah, right? And then the last thing I wanted to show you, I had gone on 2 trips overseas, and I had planned to go on a third in 2017. I was supposed to get embedded with some Green Berets, and they couldn't tell me where they were, and they couldn't tell me what they were doing. And at the very last minute, like literally a few days before, all I knew was I was supposed to fly to Jordan, and that I would get picked up and I would find out where I was going after that. Nobody knew about it. Like literally 2 people at the radio station and me and the company lawyer knew about it, and that was it. And at the very last minute, the plug got pulled on it. And when the guys came home, one of them came over. I had promised him a nice glass of scotch here in the war room when he got home safe. And he came over and he gifted me with something. And he said, we ended up getting into some trouble, looking for some trouble, going after some bad guys. And they said, when we returned home safely from that battle, we realized that you were supposed to be with us. And so I brought you something home from that battle. And he gave it to me. And I was like, are you sure you don't want this? And he was like, that's the small one. I got the bigger one. And so I have it here. And part of the reason why it's not framed is that just taking this to Michael's craft shop to get it framed would probably put me on an FBI list somewhere. But they came home and he gave me an ISIS flag that they
Whoa.
took off of the guys that they got in the firefight with that day. So I proudly have this on my coffee table here in the war room. And every week that I do cocktails in the war room, I make sure my coaster's on it. And this is where my drink sits. This is what's on the table underneath it. And I thought it was so badass that he gave it to me. So I wanted to show it to you.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's freaking awesome. Heck yeah.
I want to explain one term before I let's see. The comments are coming in like crazy, but everybody's commenting. There's one story about Afghanistan that I want to share with you because it's become a little inside joke here in the war room. So when I was in Afghanistan, it was in downtown Kabul, it was a huge base called Camp Phoenix. And there were like 17 countries and there were all these civilian contractors. You know how big those bases are. They're huge.
Yeah.
And there was like a marketplace on the base and there were places to get food and all of this stuff. And one of the places was a massage place where the guys could go and get a massage. And sometimes things happen in a massage parlor. Uh-huh. And the code was blueberry cobbler. And if you said that, you got a different massage. And the guys that I was embedded with begged me and pleaded with me the whole time I was there for me to go get a massage and ask for the blueberry cobbler because they were dying to know what would happen because they were all guys and they were like, you got to go in there. You're the only girl. You got to go in there and ask them for the blueberry cobbler. So one night early in the pandemic here in the war room, I may or may not have had an extra glass of sangria and I told the blueberry cobbler story. And it has now become this inside joke here in the war room. And literally, if you could see my comments, every single one of them says blueberry cobbler right now because it's become this inside joke. So now that you've come in the war room with us, you are now privy to the blueberry cobbler inside joke. So welcome to the war room family, Brad.
Thank you very much.
Before I let you go, I wanted to open it up and just see if anybody had any last minute questions. We're doing an after action report of episode 18 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. So many people just said how much they loved the episode. There was so much amazing feedback on how open and honest and candid you were about your sobriety and encouraging other people to get sober as well, which is why we're all drinking Shirley Temples tonight in your honor. So thank you very much.
And watered down Diet Coke because the ice is melting in it.
My producer that came with me in Afghanistan, we call him Producer Mike, says, thank you, Brad. Your music is a time machine to a brotherhood to me. Seeing you live is an emotional roller coaster, and I love it every time. So that's from Producer Mike.
Thank you.
Let's see. Mark wants to know if you would do one of the drive-in shows that the bands are doing right now. Have you guys thought about it?
Ooh, you know what? I'd do about any kind of show right now. Well, I know that we're talking about some live stream shows, and I know that people are doing those, but we have a company that we're going to be working with, and we're announcing it soon. But they're doing this one. We're doing 3 of them, and they're going to be legit. It's going to be pretty awesome. But I'm ready to get out and play some actual shows. But right now, I think the only thing that we're talking about maybe going down to Australia maybe before anything. But I'm ready to play in America. I'm so ready to play a show.
We miss you.
I miss y'all. We recorded some songs for a thing that I can't say what it is.
Yeah, you can. We won't tell anybody. We'll keep your secret, Brad. Don't worry. No, shh.
Well, we got to record a couple songs just live acoustic the other day, and it was so much fun. And I learned, and it's been so long since I sang. Our house is just me and my wife, so it's pretty quiet around here. And my voice is it echoes through here, and I drive my wife crazy. But so I try to be a little bit quieter at home, and then when I get to singing again, it's just I have to kind of like get in that gear, and I'll get getting tuned up, and I'll come home, and she's like, "Yep, you've been singing."
Kim loves your accent.
Oh, thank you.
Up here, it stands out a little bit more. Up here,
yeah. It gets terrible when I'm at home. When I travel a bunch and I go around a lot, it's not so bad. But when I get home, it's so bad.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing with me. I can get rid of my accent when I really concentrate on it. But if I have a drink or two and then somebody pisses me off, I go full Boston, and you should just never go full Boston. You just should never do it.
Well, you should never go full Southern either,
yeah,
because people can understand what you're saying.
Brad, I am so grateful that you came to hang out with us in the War Room tonight. I loved seeing all of the stuff that you brought in tonight, and I know everybody here in the War Room is just so excited to see you and hear from you. And the feedback, like I said on the podcast episode, was great, and it's so nice to have you for an after action report here in the War Room. And I know I speak for everybody here when I say, we love you, we love Three Doors Down, and we miss you so much, and we can't wait to see you.
We love y'all too, and we miss y'all. And I'll tell you this: nobody is ready to go back on tour more than us. And as soon as things are allowed, and I think that things will be allowed before too terribly long. And as soon as we can get back going, we'll be back out there.
And before I let you go, just one more word about the Marines celebrating their birthdays today. We always cheers whoever's having a birthday, and to all of our veterans. Cheers to you, Brad.
Cheers to y'all.
Thanks to all of our troops and our veterans, and of course the Marines on their birthday today. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Brad,
happy birthday, guys.
We love you. Thank you so much for coming in the War Room tonight. It was so awesome to have you. Please come back anytime.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Next time you come in, I want to see the rifle that you got from Mr. Charlie Daniels that you told me about.
Oh, dang. I wish I'd have known. I would have broke it out.
No worries.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next time. When you get the tour scheduled and you know you're coming to Boston, you're coming back in the War Room so we can talk about the show, and we'll see the rifle then. That sounds like a plan. All right, Brad. Thank you so much. Good night. Thank you. Good night to y'all. Enjoy the ponies. Yeah, I will. We'll talk to you later. All right. Good night. Guys, seriously, how awesome is Brad Arnold from Three Doors Down? He's just the coolest. He's so awesome. So I hope you guys loved having him in the War Room tonight. I was so excited when he accepted the invitation. He promised in the podcast, and the fact that he backed it up was just awesome. So there you go. So we talked about the Marines. We talked about the birthday. As a matter of fact, there are some other people celebrating birthdays tonight. So we cheered the Marines. Happy 245th. And sharing your birthday, Miranda Lambert, Eve, and Warren G. Those are the only other people that I could find that had birthdays today. So if today is your birthday, happy birthday to you. Just so you know, Wednesday has not even come close to the War Room right now. I don't know where she is. Otherwise, I would have introduced Brad. I actually warned him ahead of time that there was a possibility that Wednesday was going to crash the party. So I prepared him for Wednesday. Donna says, oh my God, he's great. I smile the whole time he talks. Brianna says he is so down to earth and humble. David says, hell of a nice guy. Melissa says that was so great. Ash says that was awesome. The podcast was awesome too. I seriously love your Tuesday nights. John says different vibe without the cocktails. I agree. But I think with all of the discussions we've had here in the War Room, and I think, Brad, if you haven't listened to the podcast episode, please go back and listen to episode 18 with Brad Arnold. He really was very candid about tackling his sobriety. And I thought it was really important that we celebrate that and support him. And so I think mocktails in the War Room every now and again is a good thing for all of us. So it was awesome to have him in here. Okay. Speaking of the podcast, let's do a podcast recap talking about last week's episode 22, featuring Josh Todd from Buckcherry. Last week when I announced that he was going to be the guest, I teased you guys about what it is that he is doing as a backup plan. And I thought it was really interesting hearing Josh Todd talk about his work ethic and wanting to take care of his family, and talking about the financial struggles that a lot of rock bands are having right now. And congratulations, John. He says, I have almost 19 years sober on the comments. Congratulations, John. That's amazing. But I thought Josh, he really let his guard down and was talking about, the need to want to make sure that he had a fallback plan and a backup plan. And so the fact that he became a phlebotomist was a shock to me in the podcast episode. I couldn't believe it. And I just wanted to know what you guys thought about episode 22. Ash says, Carrie, your hair looks amazing. Thank you very much. I wanted to bring it up because Linda from the main hair lounge right there, she says hello. I went and saw Linda today, which is why it's curly, because Linda insists on curling my hair. And for some reason, when she curls it, the curls actually stay, which is why on my wedding day, my hair was curly, because Linda was like, you're getting married on almost no notice. I'm coming to your house to curl your hair. And she did. So, thanks to Linda. And I also obviously not only want to thank the main hair lounge for sponsoring last week's episode of the podcast, and also Cocktails in the War Room this week, and also Latini Creative Solutions for sponsoring last week's episode of the podcast, and also Cocktails in the War Room. Let's see, you guys. Tough to be a band right now, says Joe. No real income coming in. Exactly. Let's see. I appreciate anyone who has battled demons and won, says Brianna, talking about Brad's sobriety. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that you love the curls. I wish I could get them to stay put, but they really don't. Monica says, cheers to all that are sober. Ralph says, hey, Carrie, new AC/DC album out on Friday. Oh, I know. Trust me. Can't wait. This weekend is going to be a big music weekend, and we're going to talk about that coming up in a few minutes. So I'm glad you guys liked the Josh Todd episode. I thought the other thing that was really interesting was him talking about exactly how your vocal cords work, and stretching your vocal cords during the warm-ups. Anybody that has ever been around Josh when he's doing those vocal warm-ups, it amazes me that the band hasn't killed him yet, because he has to do them every day. So the band and the crew and everybody has to hear him do it every day. But he takes care of his voice, and you can obviously tell when you go to see Buck Cherry. Scott says, stopping in quick to say hi and then off to bed. Hope all is well with everybody. What's up, Scott? Let's see. Melissa says, it's so cool that Josh got his certification in phlebotomy. I know. It was unbelievable when he said that, because it was the last thing I expected him to say. And I don't know why. It was just so random. I was like, what? The same way that I reacted in episode 6, when Dez from Devil Driver and Coal Chamber told me that he was day trading on the stock market in the morning. There are just things that you just don't expect to hear people say. And that's one of the reasons why I love the podcast. Speaking of the podcast, some big announcements for this week's episode. So this week, episode 23 is another opportunity, like we did with Aaron Jones, where I can introduce you to a brand new band that I think you guys are going to really like. And the name of the band is Saul. And the lead singer is Blake Bedsall, which is obviously where they get the name of the band. And so episode 23 that goes live at midnight tonight is featuring Saul. And there is a song on their album, Rise as Equals, that was co-written by David Draymond from Disturbed. And Blake talked not only about what it was like to record remotely with David Draymond, but also talked about a very pivotal moment in his life. And in that moment in time, the person that was there for him was Morgan Rose from Seven Dust. And so he had some amazing insight. We joked, I'll give you a little background story. There's 2 brothers in the band, and they are from Iowa. And so I had to admit to him that the only references to Iowa that I had were Field of Dreams and Slipknot. And so we talked a lot about what it was like growing up in Iowa and being a corn farmer, and what it took to save up to get his first amp. And I think it's a really interesting episode. And like I've told you in the past, I love the fact that we can keep in touch with the artists that we love, like Brad Arnold from Three Doors Down, or Josh Todd from Buck Cherry, or the guys from Stained and Shinedown and Bad Wolves, and all of these bands that we've talked to. But I also love the fact that Wendy says, I love Saul. I love the fact that we're also embracing some of these newer artists, because as hard as it is for an established artist to maintain any momentum in 2020, it's almost impossible if you're a new band to try and get any momentum going at all. Because normally, if you're a brand new band, you open up for established artists so that you can get out in front of these audiences and try and win over some of the fans to like your band. And with no tours, it's incredibly difficult to get your name out there and to get your music out there. And obviously, a band like Saul would have been getting played on WAF, which we can't do anymore either. So I love the fact that you guys have been so supportive of some of the newer artists on the podcast. And I know you guys are going to love episode 23 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. Like I said, it goes live at midnight tonight, and it features Blake Bedsall, the lead singer of the band Saul. One of the other things you will notice on this screen is starting tomorrow, we have a new sponsor for the Mistress Carrie podcast, and it is DCU. And the reason why I wanted to point it out is I'm incredibly excited about DCU getting involved with the podcast. And it's a timely thing as well, because I think I told you this story a little bit in the War Room a long time ago. And if you listen to the AAF to Afghanistan recap episode with producer Mike, we talked about this in a lot more detail. But the trip to Afghanistan in 2011 was already approved, and we had already gotten enough sponsors together to be able to cover all of the expenses, everything from the flights and the equipment and the satellite phone and the prepaid minutes and all of the things that we needed for Mike and I to be able to get to Afghanistan. And then we got a new boss, and the new boss said, well, every dollar that you brought in got spent on expenses for the trip, and you're not putting any money into the radio station. So unless you can go out and you can get businesses to help underwrite this trip so that we can actually, there's no budget for you to go to Afghanistan. So we need you to get sponsors that are going to help the radio station as much as they're going to help the trip. And if I couldn't pull that off with less than 6 weeks notice, we were going to have to pull the plug on the trip. And it was devastating for me. It was devastating for Mike. We didn't even want to tell the guys that were in Afghanistan that there was a chance that the trip couldn't happen. And so we said, you know what? We're just going to start making phone calls, and we are going to get this done, and we are going to figure it out. And one of the first phone calls that I made was to my friends at DCU. And I explained to them what was going on. And I said, there's a chance that this trip could not happen. And I really need a favor. And there was not a second of hesitation. And I can tell you in 100% certainty that had DCU not come in and helped to save the day, we would never have gone to Afghanistan in 2011. And that trip would never have happened. And all of the stories and all of the things that have come out of that we've talked about here in the War Room and also in the podcast, it would have never happened if it wasn't for DCU. And so when I got the news recently that DCU was coming on board and helping to support the Mistress Carrie podcast, it meant the world to me. So I was so excited. Melissa says that your new boss sucked ass. Yeah, that's an understatement, Melissa. You have no idea. So I was so excited, and I am honored, and I really wanted to take the opportunity to thank DCU, not only on the eve of Veterans Day, where we're going to be celebrating the service of all of the people I met in Afghanistan and in Iraq, but I just love the fact that all these years later, even with the radio station being gone, that DCU is continuing to support me and to support my mission of working with our veterans, and also to work to keep us all together as a rock community. And so I'm really excited that starting this week, DCU is going to be one of the official sponsors of the Mistress Carrie podcast. So super excited. Talking about the podcast, not only are you getting new episodes every week, on Wednesdays, but you also get the sit rep, which of course is all your headlines and music, which you get every weekday morning when you wake up, no matter how early. You get all your music and news headlines in less than 5 minutes. So if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, subscribe so you don't miss anything. Of course, Saul is going live at midnight. The Brad Arnold interview, the After Action Report, that is going to go up as a bonus episode of the podcast. And obviously, you're going to get the sit rep as well. And for everybody asking about the podcast, these are all of the different places that you can hear it right now. Apple, Google, Spotify, radio.com, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Deezer, Overcast, TuneIn, Pandora, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Amazon, and then to our ever-growing audience in India. That's where they're hearing it. I have not been corrected, so I believe I'm pronouncing it correctly. Jio Savan and Ghana. And that is where all of our Indian listeners are coming from, because they are some of the biggest music and podcast streaming services in India. So we want to welcome them to the party as well. And that brings us to the big question every week. How many countries are listening to the podcast now, Mistress Carrie? And that answer is 95. This week, even though they're a territory, we welcome Puerto Rico as one of the countries that's listening to us now, and also Cyprus. So we've got some island nations that are celebrating the Mistress Carrie podcast as well. And we are up to 95 countries, which I can't believe. It's unbelievable. So I'm super grateful. John, thank you for the people asking in the comments, what's DCU? It's Digital Federal Credit Union. So thank you. I knew you guys are on the ball in there. That's what happens when we're drinking Shirley Temples. We actually know what the hell's going on here in the war room. You talked about all of the music stuff. Of course, we were going to talk about the new AC/DC album, which comes out on Friday. This is a big week in rock. Not only are we getting the new AC/DC album on Friday, last Friday night at midnight, 2 new System of a Down songs dropped, and it's their first new music in 15 years. They released 2 songs where they're hoping to raise awareness and also funds to aid their homeland of Armenia, which, if you're not following what's going on, I encourage you to follow Serge Tankian, the lead singer of System of a Down. Azerbaijan, according to Serge and most political experts, is committing war crimes against Armenia and the Armenian people. And so System of a Down, even though there have been very vocal disagreements amongst the band when it comes to American politics, the one thing that unites the guys from System of a Down is the politics that involves their homeland of Armenia. And so they decided to put 2 new songs out with all of the proceeds and all of the merch going to help the Armenian people. So you can go online and check out the new System of a Down. And then the Foo Fighters debuted their new song, Shame, Shame, over the weekend on Saturday Night Live. The new album was also announced. It's called Medicine at Midnight, and it is being released on February 3rd. And they have decided to do a live stream concert this Saturday, and it is happening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to see the Foo Fighters live this weekend, you can totally do it. Go to their website and all of the details are there. Why is it a huge music weekend? Well, not only do we have new AC/DC on Friday, not only do we get a live stream Foo Fighters concert on Saturday, but Metallica's All Within My Hands acoustic performance is also going to be live streamed on Saturday. And that is happening at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can watch it on nugs.tv. So Saturday, if you don't have any plans, you can watch Metallica at 5 and then the Foo Fighters at 8. And that's after you get the AC/DC album that comes out the day before. I need to wet my whistle. That's a lot of talking. Okay. Penny says the new System of a Down is awesome. Joe wants to know when we're having a pajama party with Danielle. I'm still waiting on Danielle to give me the day where she's doing it, and then we're going to do it. Jen says she likes my hair curled. I appreciate it. I wanted to make sure that Linda saw that my curls survived the day, and they're still there at night. Let's go to the mail call, which we do every week. And it gives me a chance to go through some of the amazing things that you guys have sent me since we started Cocktails in the War Room back in March. I cannot believe that I actually, it's falling down on the floor. Hold on. I want to make sure that I put it together here. Hold on. If Brad Arnold's watching this right now, it's like that. I know this is the high production value of Cocktails in the War Room, Brad. I got this in the mail today. On the box, it said, happy birthday, Marines, and happy Veterans Day. The letter says, Dear Mistress, 2020 sucks, no doubt, but you rock. So happy for your successful post-WAF life. I am still in mourning, though. Here is the USMC that I promised you. It is hard. It was handmade by my dad, Harry, who was a Marine. Wish you the best. Happy wedding and Veterans Day. Brian from Spencer. So Brian, thank you very much for your letter. And what Brian and his dad made is these wooden Marines. And there is a hole up here to be able to put the flag. And it's a wooden Marine. Their blood stripe is on there. And then it comes with 2 metal posts that go in the bottom. And you're supposed to put it out in front of your yard. Obviously, I would have put it out in front of the house today, it being the Marine Corps birthday. But I wanted to bring it into the war room so that you guys could see it. So not only do I love it because it arrived on the Marine Corps birthday and on the eve of Veterans Day, but you guys also know that this is the first year that I am the wife of a proud United States Marine who is overseas right now. And so this means a lot. So I really appreciate it, Brian. Thank you. And I will have it outside with pride. I'm not going to leave it out there too long, though, because I don't want the weather to ruin it. But I absolutely love this. Sean wants to know if Brad's reading the comments. I have no idea. We connected via Skype. So there's a possibility that Brad or his record company, his manager, his press people, all of those people could be in the war room with us right now. I really don't know, but I'm sure they're going to be reading your comments and they are going to absolutely love all of the support and all of the amazing things that you guys were talking about with Brad while we were talking and after. See, these are the little metal posts that came with my Marine. So I'm going to have all these and I will put them outside. So thank you very much, Brian. I love it. There's the address. Oh, sorry. I always do that. It's backwards this way. There's the address. And I love getting your mail. Thank you guys so much. We did the birthdays already. I want to welcome Heidi and Marcy. They are the most recent recipients of the Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass, which you can get on Patreon. And it's basically a way to get extra Mistress Carrie stuff and a backstage view of what's going on. The War Room finds out about a lot of things before I post them. But when I have big announcements, whether it be news about the podcast or the website or just anything going on, usually the people with the Backstage Pass find out first. So if you are looking for something to give to someone this holiday season, maybe you're not going to see them because you're distancing from family or friends because of the virus, and you don't really know what they need, you can always get a Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass as a gift, which would be really cool. I will tell everybody that has the Backstage Pass that I beta tested the live stream so that I could give you guys a private tour of MCHQ. And I had some technical difficulties, but I think I worked them out. So I am working diligently. I know I told you last week, I promised you that I was going to give you the exclusive MCHQ tour. And like I said, the first official technical test, I failed miserably, but I am figuring it out, so that anyone with a Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass will get a private link so we can do something like what we do here in the War Room, but only for people that have Backstage Passes, so that I can take you guys around MCHQ and show you around a little bit. So welcome to Heidi and Marcy. And whenever we get to Backstage Pass number 100, whoever the lucky person is that gets it is going to get an amazing Mistress Carrie prize pack. And it is going to include some of the stuff that is going to be available very, very soon on mistresscarrie.com, which we are getting very, very close. I'm going to meet with the webmaster on Thursday, and I will have a better idea of what's going on with the website when we meet here in the War Room next week. Whew. If you're trying to find me online, here's where you can find me: on Twitter at Mistress Carrie, Instagram and Facebook at Mistress Carrie WAF. Obviously, you found me on Facebook because here we all are. You can get me on TikTok, Cameo, YouTube, and Patreon at Mistress Carrie. And Karen says, I want a hoodie for Christmas. I talked to Brian, T-shirt Brian, today, and we're working on the hoodies. He is working on a list right now. He's got all the artwork from Christine at Latini Creative Solutions. And trust me, Forward momentum. We're working on it. Can you tell us what number you are at? I believe today we hit like 71, I think. So we're getting close. Mike, really? Show us your boobies. Really, Mike? If you haven't seen the Mantown calendars by now, you're missing out, bro. They're fantastic. Let's see. Hoodies, says Jen. Barbara, show us your brains. Oh, that's a good one. Let's see. There you go. John says 70. So there you go. It changes all the time. Some people leave, some people come in. It's like, I never know. Every day the number is different. It's kind of like with the countries listening to the podcast. Christine giving a plug for Mike Shue, who's on the Pike in Worcester every weeknight from 6 to 8. So if you guys are looking for Mike Shue, not only can you hear him on the radio every night, but you guys got to check out, if you're Neil Young fans, the Long May You Young podcast. If you are a Neil Young fan, you will definitely love that podcast. And then, of course, there's the Breaking the Ice podcast, where you can hear him and Isaiah and Josh, all from WAAF, just being insane, which is basically how they all are. So knit hats, yes, we're working on beanies as well. Not only am I looking for just like black beanies, but also I'm looking for purple ones with pom-poms too. So there you go. David says, I want to see Wednesday's butt. I don't know where she is. She has not come in here at all. It's really funny, actually. I'll tell you the story. Wednesday knows when it's Tuesday because I start bringing all the equipment into the war room, and she instinctively comes in here and runs up on the couch, and she starts waiting for me to start the show. And then sometimes when the show starts, she runs out of here. Tonight, she came in for a little while, and then she took off and she never came back. So I don't know where she is. Jen says, my husband misses those Mantown calendars. That Debbie, I don't know where Wednesday is. She's in the house somewhere. Wednesday! I don't even hear her. Wednesday! No idea. She's probably like curled up somewhere. Joe says bumper stickers. So let me tell you, the stickers have been ordered, and I used the same company that used to make all the AAF stickers. So they're making some pretty awesome stickers for me. So David says no pom-poms. Not for you guys, but there are girls that like hats with pom-poms. And you guys think it's cute when girls wear hats with pom-poms. So I'm getting pom-poms and pom-pom free hats. Thank you very much. Let's see. Wednesday said it was a sober day, says Mike. Would you do socks? Ed wants to know. Sure. I'll make whatever you guys think is cool. And once we get the website up and running, there's going to be a constant stream of new products coming out all the time. And one of the benefits of having a backstage pass, hold on, let me change that, is that you are also going to get discount codes for the online store at mistresscarrie.com. So I'm working on it, guys. I'm telling you, I'm juggling fireballs and chainsaws right now, but I'm making it happen. So team up with Love Your Melon for hats. Debbie, I'll look into it for sure. Let's see. Are you going to do dog clothes? Elsa wants to know. The plan is, once we get the store up and running and actually start getting mistresscarrie.com like moving forward, it's been a learn. I am not a fucking webmaster, and it's a lot of work and a lot of things that I am just not smart enough to understand. But the plan is for Wednesday to have her own corner of the online store so that she can sell her own stuff. Her ego has gotten huge with all of the love she gets from you guys on Instagram, where you can find her at Wednesday the Goth Pug if you want to find her on the IG. Purple socks, says Joe. Gloves, regular and fingerless. How about pajama bottoms? Definitely looking into those, Heather. Thongs for the ladies, asking for a friend, Mark. Believe me, I am working on all kinds of stuff, and the more ideas you guys have, the more I will listen. I really want to have a lot of fun with it, and I want to be able to make not only things that are really cool. Yes, we're bringing back the Cocktails in the War Room shirts. They'll be a little different, but we're bringing those back, and also the hoodies and all of that. But then I want to be able to do some fun things too. John says you need an intern. Trust me. I know. I'm working on it. We definitely need Wednesday merch. She's a celebrity now. I know her ego is like, so there's a lot going on, and I am working on it, and I am hoping to have an update on exactly when the website and the store are launching when we get together next week. That's my goal right now. And before that, I hope to be able to finally get the Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass live stream situated. And don't hold me to it, but I'm pretty confident I'm going to be able to get it to work this time. So there you go. Wendy says, I missed out on the original shirts. That's all right, Wendy. You'll be able to get these. The front will look the same. It'll be the back that's a little bit different. We want to make sure that we are able to identify the OGs that got the original shirts. So Jen says boxers. I'm working on silkies too for all of the military guys, all of the Marines today on their birthday, and all of the veterans for tomorrow. I am working on Mistress Carrie silkies. It's not very easy because the material that they're made out of, it's not easy to print on them. So I'm definitely working on it. There you go. I hope you guys loved having Brad on tonight. He is just such a sweet guy. And I really was so excited, not only that he came on the podcast, but I wanted you guys to be able to meet him in person and just see what an amazing and generous guy he is. And I loved all of his stories about the shows that he's played for our troops and veterans. And I just knew he was going to be the perfect guest in the War Room this week. And he definitely did not disappoint. So there you go. That brings us to the end of the show. Guys, thank you very much for being respectful of Brad's sobriety. This Shirley Temple with multiple cherries on the bottom has been delicious. Don't forget, tonight at midnight, episode 23 of the Mistress Carrie Podcast launches, featuring a new band that I think you guys are going to really love, and his stories about Iowa and working with David Draymond and Morgan from Seven Dust. I think it's a great episode, and I think you guys are going to love it. So listen at midnight or tomorrow on your way to work or whatever, and I can't wait to hear your feedback next week. Blake Bedsall from Saul is the guest on episode 23 of the Mistress Carrie Podcast, and I will see you guys then. Good night, guys. Happy birthday, Marines, and thank you. My most heartfelt and sincere thank you to all of our veterans. We would be nowhere without all of you, and I hope you have an amazing Veterans Day tomorrow. Every day should be Veterans Day, but tomorrow is for sure. So enjoy your day because you have absolutely earned it. So good night, guys.